Casey counts them down.
Well, now we're up to You Oughta Know. It's by an alternative rocker who says she just knew the members of her band were right for her, not because they're great musicians, but because they radiate positive energy. 21-year-old Alanis Morissette has long believed that there's a lot more to life than what meets the eye. She's fascinated by what she calls wandering spirits. Alanis says she can sometimes sense when a hotel she stays at on tour is haunted. She says she's not afraid of ghosts. In fact, she's grown quite used to having them around. Alanis is also very sensitive to the spirits inside people around her. She says when she's with people who give off negative energy, she gets concerned that they'll affect her. She doesn't want negative people stealing her positive energy. And that was the guiding principle last year when she was putting together the band for her CD, Jagged Little Pill. Alanis says, quote, "They were some of the best musicians I've seen in my life. But beyond that, I had to make sure that their spirits were right. They exuded this great energy. And I was like, okay, I can spend the next year and a half or 20 years of my life with these people." Unquote. Well, that combination of positive energy and great musicianship certainly worked. The CD Alanis made with her band has sold over 2 million copies. And this week, the first single from that CD climbs a notch to number 9 on Casey's Top 40. Here's Alanis Morissette with You Oughta Know.
I want you to know that I'm happy for you.
Counting them down with Casey Kasem.
Well, now we're up to Alanis Morissette, a Grammy-winning alternative rocker who says the strangest show she ever played was back when she opened for rapper Vanilla Ice. These days, 21-year-old Alanis Morissette is known as one of the top female rockers around. The woman whose hard-hitting performances recently won her 4 Grammys, including Best Female Rock Vocal and Best Rock Song. But just a few years ago, back in her teens, Alanis was a pop and disco star in her native Canada. For years, she sang upbeat, happy, highly danceable songs. They didn't have lyrics about the state of the world, but they were lots of fun. Back then, Alanis did most of her singing in the studio, but she did do an occasional live show. And at one of them, a show she did when she was 15, she opened for the man who hit number 1 with Ice Ice Baby, the rapper named Vanilla Ice. At the time, Vanilla Ice was riding high, and when Alanis went on stage and started to sing her songs along with a backing tape, the audience kept on screaming for the Iceman, the Iceman. Well, Alanis says it was like trying to open a show for the Beatles or the Stones. Nobody was interested in her. All they wanted to hear was the headliner. So she went through her short set and got off the stage as soon as she could. These days, there are lots of people who want to hear Alanis Morissette because she's one of the hottest alternative rockers around. This week, she has 2 songs on the countdown, both from the Grammy-winning album Jagged Little Pill. Alanis Morissette with Hand in My Pocket.
I'm broke, but I'm happy. I'm poor, but I'm kind. I'm short, but I'm healthy, yeah.
Casey's Top 40.
From Hollywood, this is David Perry sitting in for Casey Kasem. Now we're up to a rocker who got quite a homecoming when her tour recently stopped in Ottawa, Canada. This past month has been quite hectic for 21-year-old Alanis Morissette. On February 28th, right in the midst of her world tour, Alanis stopped in Los Angeles where she won 4 Grammy Awards. And less than a week later, she traveled to Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, where she received 5 Juno Awards, the Canadian equivalent of the Grammy. And March 8th was another day Alanis won't soon forget. That was the day her tour arrived in her hometown of Ottawa, Canada. The afternoon of the show, the excitement in town was intense because several thousand of her friends, family, and fans had gathered in downtown Ottawa for a special ceremony led by Mayor Jacqueline Holzman. First, the mayor congratulated Alanis on her success, saying the singer had become one of Ottawa's great ambassadors to the world. And then, as a token of appreciation, Mayor Holzman presented Alanis with the key to the city. To finish the ceremony, the mayor announced that the City Council of Ottawa recently held a special vote, and they declared March 8, 1996 as Alanis Morissette Day. After the festivities were over, Alanis got ready for her show that night, a show that featured this big hit from her CD, Jagged Little Pill, with Hand in My Pocket.
'Cause I've got one hand in my pocket, and the other one is hailing a taxi cab.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem, and that means we're up to the number 1 song in the USA on Casey's Top 40. and it's by an alternative rocker who has a unique way of warming up for her high-energy shows. Even though this Canadian singer and songwriter is just in her early 20s, she's been a professional musician since she was a teenager. And during that time, she has come up with a routine that relaxes her before a show and gets her voice loosened up. Some singers do that by practicing songs of their own. Some go through scales or other vocal exercises. But the woman who sings this week's number one has found that there's nothing better to get her ready for a show than to sing oldies, great hits from the 60s and 70s. Often she'll turn on a radio in her dressing room and search for a station that plays oldies, particularly the great sounds of Motown. And then for a half an hour or more, she'll sing along, giving it all she's got, until she's sure she's out singing the singers on the records. And if she can't find an oldie station, no problem. She always carries a box full of oldie CDs which she can put on a portable player. This week, that singer's on the other side of the Atlantic warming up for big shows in England and Scotland. And one of the songs she'll sing is her highest charting hit to date. The song that for the second week in a row is the biggest hit in the land. The number one song in the USA on Casey's Top 40 is Ironic by Alanis Morissette.
It's like rain on your wedding day.
Casey's Top 40.
That means we're up to the number one song in the USA this week on Casey's Top 40. It's by a singing star who started a new fashion trend in nail polish. It's not a trend the 21-year-old Canadian star intended to start. She just happens to like a particular shade of blue nail polish. It's a light robin's egg blue she first discovered at a store in Toronto when she was a teenager. She thought it was kind of artsy and strange. Over the years, she's had little trouble finding her favorite color because it was practically no one else's favorite. But after her CD, Jagged Little Pill, started selling millions of copies and she started appearing all over TV, her fans noticed the color, and they started rushing out to pick up some for themselves. Now it's become a major trend. The result is a huge shortage of the color. And manufacturers say the popularity of light robin's egg blue came as such a surprise to them that it'll take months to catch up with the demand. Meanwhile, the woman behind that trend keeps on wearing her unusual nail polish, and she keeps on selling records. Records like the one that for the third week in a row is the biggest hit in the land. The number one song in the USA on Casey's Top 40 is Ironic by Alanis Morissette.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
And rising 6 notches to number 13 is a singer who originated in Ottawa, Canada. When she was 14, she moved to Toronto, and these days she calls Los Angeles home.
Casey's Top 40.
For Casey Kasem, I'm David Perry. Now we're up to You Learn. It's by a Canadian singing star whose concerts are often described as storms of emotions. That's why she wants things backstage to be as calm as possible. It's actually something Alanis Morissette has written into her performance contract. She stipulates that promoters provide a, quote, peaceful, relaxing atmosphere with no hard liquor, unquote. On her current world tour, that demand has been interpreted in a wide variety of ways. One promoter had the singer's dressing room decked out with hundreds of burning candles. Another promoter in Sydney, Australia, spent thousands of dollars to have her dressing room filled with exotic shrubs and bushes. She says by the time it was done, the place looked like a jungle. Why take such elaborate measures for a little peace and quiet? Alanis says, quote, something I crave is peace of mind for 5 minutes. Constant peace is impossible, and because I don't have it, it's something I think about a lot, unquote. Alanis says that taking a few minutes backstage to collect her thoughts in a quiet, controlled environment helps to focus her energy on the task at hand, which for her means giving the most intense show she possibly can. That intensity is part of the reason why this singer has become one of the hottest new stars of the 90s. And here she is with her current hit.
American Top 40.
Well, now we're up to the latest smash by a singer who has a twin brother. She says they often know what the other is feeling even though they live thousands of miles apart. This Canadian sensation grew up with an older brother named Chad and a twin brother named Wade. She says she has a good brother-sister relationship with her older brother, but her relationship with her twin brother is downright cosmic. She says that when they were going to elementary school, there were times when one of them would fall and hurt themselves, and the other would know it because they'd feel the pain. Over the years, this singer-songwriter says if she came down with a cold, her twin brother would start sneezing and vice versa. And if she's feeling a bit down, her brother somehow seems to know and gives her a call, even though he lives in Canada and she lives in Los Angeles. Of course, it's hard to feel down when your debut album in America sold over 16 million copies and you've scored with 4 number ones. And this week, her most recent number one is survey song number 9 on American Top 40. Here's psychic twin Alanis Morissette with Uninvited.
Anyone would.
The hits from coast to coast.
We're counting down this week's biggest hits. And here at number 31 is Alanis Morissette, a woman who says that one of the motivating forces behind her introspective lyrics is her sensitivity. She says, I was always ultra-sensitive. I had this curiosity to get to the root of why certain people were acting in certain ways, unquote. Here's the inquisitive Alanis Morissette with Thank You, as our countdown on American Top 40 rolls on.
Casey's Coast to Coast.